We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. This is Robert Phoenix, and you are now listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. How is everybody today? The energy is quite intense as we move towards another eclipse, the second in three that are coming at us in fairly rapid succession. This eclipse will be taking place in the southern hemisphere. It will be visible throughout most of central to southern Australia for just a little over 6 minutes, and then parts of Micronesia after that. The eclipse will be taking place in what's known as the Ring of Fire, so we need to keep an eye on earthquakes here in the next 72 hours. Because the effects of the eclipse actually happen before and after, and the eclipse will be taking place on the 10th, which is this Friday. Most of the rest of the world, in fact, all the rest of the world outside of Australia and Micronesia will not be seeing the eclipse, but there's a very strong chance we will be feeling the eclipse. We've also been experiencing some massive activity on the sun. There is a significant CME that was launched yesterday. So in addition to the eclipse, we also have pronounced solar activity and choppers going by the Free Association Radio studios at present. Sometimes the lords of mechanized consciousness impinge upon us to be able to drive a point home. We live in loud times, strange things occurring. I don't know if you're following what happened in Cleveland, but that's a hell of a story. That is a hell of a story. Those 3 girls that were liberated from the prison of the Castro family is a phenomenal, surreal, and bizarre tale of survival and what goes on behind closed doors in America. Here this guy was the neighborhood guy. He was the neighborhood guy. He was the guy that would play with the kids, water his lawn, fix his car, barbecue ribs with the neighbors. Nobody had any idea what was going on behind closed doors at that house until somehow that young woman was able to stick her hand through a door that could barely open and be liberated. Thanks to the bravery of, what's that guy's name? Was his name Ramsey? That's an amazing interview. If you haven't seen that interview or heard that interview with him, it's incredible. But what's fascinating and also dark at the same time, and this does have something to do with astrology, is that if you were to go to the other side of the country, in the west coast of California, the west coast of the United States in California, there was a tragic limousine accident in which 5 young women were trapped in a burning stretch limo and were not able to extricate themselves. 4 actually got out. 5 could not. One was a bride, newly married, on her way to the reception at a hotel in Foster City. I know the bridge. I've traveled across that bridge many times. It's a tough bridge to pull over, but not impossible. And so here we have the universe at work. We have 3 young women liberated from the clutches of a neighborhood psychopath who are now free to take up their lives, whatever their lives may be. And then you have 5 women in California who tragically perish. Such is the cruel fates of the universe at times. All things, I guess, are in balance. And it might be something to keep in mind as we look around us and we see the world start to become unhinged, to be quite honest with you. I was on Facebook today, and I read 2 posts from 2 Facebook friends in England, and both of them were claiming that on some level they were or were about to be attacked. And when I say attacked, I mean by forces conspiring to cause them pain or grief or suffering based on their political opinions or exopolitical opinions. One is an experiencer and a UFO presenter who feels as though what she's bringing forward in a very public way in England is going to be trashed, and everyone associated with it is going to be gone after with long knives and short tempers. And the other was claiming that a helicopter was flying over her house and hitting her with some kind of psychotronic weapon. And I don't doubt her. I really don't doubt her at all, because these are the times that we're living in. And what's really strange about these times is that, and this is the hard part, this is where it gets really sticky, because we're living in a holographic universe, and the universe reflects our thoughts. The universe reflects our intentions. The universe reflects our our shadow, our projections. It happens. And it's a slippery slope, because we see the world around us and we say yes or we say no. We say yes to this or no to that. We say yes to this person or no to this person. And what are we really saying? What are we really choosing? I think it's important to look at what's being assembled in front of us, to be conscious and to be aware of the world or the anti-world that it seems to be created through the deconstruction of the world that we've known. It's important to understand that. It's important to know that. It's important to make choices based on that. However, there's also the flip side of that, where if we remain at times too steadfast in our own beliefs, and if we remain at times too steadfast in all of our darkest and scariest projections, they come true. They happen. They manifest. So we have to balance these things out. You know, the New Age dictum is that thoughts create things, and attention follows intention. You know, what you think, so shall you become, things like that. It's the whole creating your own reality mindset. And that reached a kind of obesely excessive manifestation when The Secret came out. Because at that point in time, all The Secret was doing was advocating the feel-good philosophy that was just a propped up form of materialism and a pseudo form of magic in order to get what you want. That's really what it was about. So that was the distended and mutated version of this whole idea that what we think, so shall we create. But there's some truth to that. There is some truth to that. I was having a conversation with my pal Dave here in Austin on Sunday night, and we were talking about, helicopters and, the things that happen to people at certain times when they're out there on a limb. And we both came to the conclusion that these things show up when we're in the states that we evoke them. I've had them happen. I used to have helicopters fly over my house all the time. And it was during a time in my life where I was giving that stuff a lot of energy. And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that people just put their heads in the sand. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is being conscious and aware of how we assemble the atoms of reality around us. Because guess what? We create those helicopters. I'm telling you right now. We create them when we're in these pitched states of really fixed thinking. And sometimes the relationships, in fact, all times the relationships in our lives, we create them too. We create them. People show up. They reflect who we are. We get to say yes or no. We get to say yes lovingly or no lovingly. Sometimes we try to be loving, and it doesn't always work out that way. It comes out as being harsh or cruel. And it's all up for review. I mean, we're all here making mistakes together. Nobody's perfect. And the ones that think they're perfect, well, they're on a slippery slope, trust me. Them and the system that they're continuing to desecrate for their own ends and purposes. So we live in strange times. We live in interesting times. We live in cataclysmic times. We live in apocalyptic times. We live in the times of Revelation. And we live in the times of Genesis. They're all here. Everything's here right now. It's always been here. And so you're here. What are you doing? Where are your thoughts? Where's your heart? How's your life? Are you willing to look at it? Are you willing to take accountability for all of it? All of it. The best parts of you, the worst parts of you. Are you willing to take accountability for your victimization? Are you willing to take accountability for your so-called piety or righteousness? Being a good person. Whatever that is. Stuart Wilde died. I don't know if you people know that. Stuart Wilde was a giant. He was a giant in the world that I'm talking about. Because Stuart Wilde was a pioneer in consciousness. Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer studied at the elbow of Stuart Wilde. Stuart Wilde wrote it all. He did it all. And he actually had the experience of melding these two worlds together. And the two worlds that I'm talking about are the worlds that say yes and no simultaneously and are part of an engine of consciousness that uses the so-called duality of these positions to fire itself and move through the corridors of the universe. I want to read a few things here from Stuart Wilde just to start the show. This is from May 1st. This is a poem that he wrote. It's called At the Window of Tomorrow. At the window of tomorrow, I saw many a yesteryear, It was easy to see where we'd come in the intervening time, how we'd grown and struggled and triumphed. Beyond the yesteryear was tomorrow's future. It wasn't much different than today, but a little more was added, a little more light, and in this way we came to transcend, and the yesteryears moved up slowly, and tomorrow's moved down gradually. And they joined in the middle and spun around each other to become heaven on earth, the one we've been promised. This is exactly what I was talking about, is using the duality or the energy that appears to be dual and firing it for our own internal revolution. Let me read one more from Stuart's site. This is another piece. It's called The Messiah's New Brightness. This is also from May 1st. This might be one of his last posts since he just passed. In the inner worlds viewed by us in trance, we see a vast, eternal, multidimensional hyperverse. What the visionaries that post here and I see varies slightly depending on which of us is watching, but the overall shape, form, and topography of those inner dimensions, what they look and feel like, is always the same, no matter who views them. They are real, and anyone can train to see them. Recently, we have seen a new brightness. The celestial light flashes with an ever-grading intensity. Sometimes we can watch it for hours. The light goes out into the world and changes it. It seems to latch onto people's souls and helps them heal and see more. Though I don't see exactly how the method works. It is beyond my ken, way too complicated and technical to understand. One night recently, I saw the Messiah light for 4 hours. It was very beautiful, the most intense set of visions I've had in the last 20 years. The Messiah light is more complex than the Jesus light, which I have seen many times in the past, as the Messiah is the Redeemer for many religions, not just the Christians. And he is the Redeemer for Gaia and the animals. They have to be rescued as well. In the light, I could see the Redeemer's extraordinary kindness, his love of humanity, his link to Gaia and the animals, and his personal sacrifice. The Messiah light flashes purple, blue, and gold in many directions at once. There were diamonds in it, as bright as little stars. And while they became so bright, I found them hard to look at. The luminosity hurt my eyes. And I saw the spirit of Gaia come out of the Messiah light, and from her came the light of the eternal Tao, which I saw as variations of the brightness formed of intense colors and striations of the God force. Gaia's power was expressed as a vast spiritual identity that seemed like a nature spirit. Taoist writers claim that the Tao is the light in all things. From what was shown to me, they were correct. I saw Gaia expressed in oblong boxes, golden lines, and intricate geometries that had mountains, trees, flowers, and birds in them. It was stunning in its delicate loveliness, golden beyond golden. I was under the canopy of God's golden sky, one laced in silver and purple, and 1,000 flashing diamonds. And in all that was her love, in the souls or spirits of all the little creatures of the earth. I felt honored in the way it graciously showed me the power of the celestial by allowing me to understand it better and look deep inside its very essence. Blessed, really blessed. I also saw the Gandhi light. I was moved at the sight of him, that I could achieve his tolerance. He was most extraordinary. He was very humble and jolly, brave and selfless. I also saw how the Messiah light is in all of us, and how I was shown how it is linked to the Lion of Judah. The Lion in the inner worlds is a real being. He's mentioned in the book of Revelation. But it is also a symbol of power that destroys the dark. He represents retribution. So it is a way of saying the light of the lion fights the dark in your soul and transmutes it. Two of my friends that were there with me saw the light flashing for over 24 hours, both with eyes open or shut. So while the Return Jesus story I've been watching in the Luna is definitely linked to a person a human embodiment of the light, a custodian, say, it is also the greater manifestation of the Christ consciousness in each and every one of us, which acts as a massive sudden upgrade, latching onto the light you already have as an extra download from the inner worlds. The light can be instigated by anyone. You just have to call upon it and pray for it and sit still and breathe it in. And people that are soft and pure, that have processed themselves and their shadow traits, can express that light outwards to others who may also start to see the light. The power of the Messiah is transformational, beyond the mind and religious concepts. It's a new brightness, a collective light, a human collective of light in the sea of insanity that surrounds us. I see it as our final rescue. And that was one of Stuart Wilde's last public posts. Seems fitting. Okay, so what I want to do right now is get into a little bit of astrology and how it relates to what we're experiencing and what's taking place. If we look at the event in Cleveland, and we see these girls liberated from the bondage of being in that house for 10 years, it's really interesting because Saturn is in Scorpio and it's retrograde. And Scorpio, of course, represents what's dark and what's hidden and what's occluded from us beneath the surface of things. In many ways, Scorpio represents basements in dungeons and hidden rooms that are hidden as symbols from our consciousness. That's what Saturn in Scorpio, or at least Scorpio itself, represents. It's the underworld. In the movie Pulp Fiction, when Bruce Willis's character goes to the pawn shop, and he's there with Ving Rhames' character, they get escorted down beneath the pawn shop. That's actually a symbol of Taurus and Scorpio. It's the symbol of Taurus and Scorpio in opposition. The pawn shop itself represents Taurus. It represents goods. People go there, they exchange goods, they take their goods, they get money. Sometimes they buy them back, sometimes they don't. They leave them. That's how it works. It's very simple. It's very basic. It's Taurus. When Bruce Willis and Ving Rhames go beneath the pawn shop, there's a very different world down there. There's the GIMP, there's torture equipment, there's sodomy, which takes place with Ving Rhames. That is Scorpio. So what Tarantino has created in that scene is in some ways a very knowing manifestation of the alchemical process, because Scorpio and Taurus are very much linked in the alchemical process. The third piece or the fourth piece in those processes, the ones that are left out of that scene, are Aquarius and Leo. And that comes into play via the viewer, who is Aquarius, because we're viewing the experience objectively, right, through film. And then the Leo part comes through Tarantino, the director, who's the creator of the scene, through the movie. And there we have the fixed cross, which of all the crosses, cardinal, fixed, mutable, is the most alchemical. It's the most transmutational. And so what we have here in Cleveland is in some ways a manifestation of that, which is the sequester and the imprisonment of the girls in the house. Fascinating stuff. And because Saturn and Scorpio is moving backwards, what we have the opportunity of seeing is how psychopathology works. And that's at a very fundamental level. I mean, here you have this guy who was a school bus driver, suspended 3 times, by the way. Not a very conscious school bus driver, based on what I've read. However, he probably had a strong union, so it took him 3 massive strikes to have his job taken away from him. But for all intents and purposes, he was a guy that people liked. But beneath the surface, right, beneath the surface, in the scorpionic folds and recesses of his house and his strange little world that he'd set up with these women, is a very different story. So Saturn in Scorpio moving backwards reveals that. It reveals the mechanisms of how psychopathology and how sociopathology work. Now, the problem with this is the problem, you see. In the Hegelian, in the realm of the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution, right? We see the problem to this, which is what just occurred. We see the problem. The problem is that somebody presented a front to the world, and that front was a false front. And as a result, he was able to get away with this for quite a long period of time. If he had been creepy or had shown any kind of psychological dysfunction, there would have been more attention placed on him and more attention placed in that house. So he had to hoist up a rather wholesome facade, so to speak. Now, we're seeing this, and the internet and mass media are abuzz about how this can actually take place. Well, you put this next to the Tsarnaev and the Boston Marathon event, where two young men who appear to the world to be rather wholesome young men. One was on a boxing team in Boston. The other was pre-med and trying to go to college, and known as kind of a class clown and a nice kid. You know, we see these images and the not just the images, but it's the testimonials of people that knew them, who spoke quite highly of them. And now we are given another face of them as being these cold-blooded, heartless terrorists that all they want to do is maim and kill and instill fear into the population. So now we have that event. Now we have this event with the fellow in the family. It wasn't just a family fellow. It was him and his brothers, uncles, brothers. Who knows who else was involved in Cleveland. And so what will happen is that people will look at this situation and they'll say, and when I say people, I'm talking about people in political circles, in the administration, the mental health industry. The mental health industry is sharpening their knives because they're looking at this thing and saying, hey, what we need testing. We need massive psychological testing because we got to know if people are capable of doing really morbid things like this. And if they are, well, guess what we can do? We can nip that in the bud. We can give them drugs. We have treatments that range from electroshock to actually removing parts of their brain that we can use so that people don't have to be at risk with psychopaths like this. Trust me. It's coming. It is coming. And so it's great that they were able to get out. It's great that that guy freed them. It's wonderful. It's great that these guys will hopefully do time for holding these women in abeyance for all these years. But don't think that the system will not pounce upon this and use this to whatever advantage they may see fit in order to forward an agenda. I'm not being paranoid. I just understand how the game works. It's coming. So Scorpio also represents psychological states. I talked about this, I think, on last week's show, that it represents repression. It represents a lot of our hang-ups, especially as it relates to sex. It represents our obsessions. Obsessions are very big with Scorpio. So when Saturn moves backwards in Scorpio, collectively, we get to review all this stuff. We get to examine it. We get to have a fresher look at the taboo, for lack of a better term, because Scorpio also represents the taboo. And Saturn, in all of its grand glory and wisdom, compresses these things, brings them to the surface. And Saturn is, well, It's interesting. I think Sagittarius is the sign of law, but Saturn is where laws get enacted, you see. And you look at that from the evolution from one house to the next, to the 9th house to the 10th house, because the laws themselves are thought up in the Sagittarian hyperspace of philosophy, law, religion, and so on. But they are inert. They are nothing unless they are passed. And it takes a governing body in order to pass those laws. And that's when we move into the 10th house, and that's when we move into Capricorn. So Saturn is not the law, but it is the enactment and the enforcement of the law. So when we bring the two together, Saturn and Scorpio, we get to see how they interact. We live in interesting times, strange times, very strange times. Obama will be here tomorrow. When I say here, he'll be in Austin, Texas. He'll be visiting a couple of schools. One school and one company. He'll be touting the new economy and the new technologies around the new economy. It should be interesting. I'm wondering if I should go. Part of me says no. But it won't be far from where I live. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play some music, and then I'm working on a new post. I might read some of it, only because it's kind of interesting. At least I think it's interesting. Let me play some music, and when I come back, I'll read a little bit of this post, or at least I'll review it, see if it's worthy of being read. And then I'll open the phone lines, and we can do some readings, some live nude readings. This is El Sendero from my good friend Jorge Reyes, who's no longer in this world, since we're talking about Scorpio and the underworld and shamanism. Jorge was probably one of the greatest sound shamans I've ever listened to or met, and this is one of his pieces, El Sendero. I'll see you in 3 minutes and 44 seconds. was El Sendero, Jorge Reyes. Jorge was a Libra, and he was born in the year of the dragon. He was a dragon Libra. He had a very unusual habit, though, and I don't believe I'm desecrating the dead here. He had a very unusual habit, though, of stealing things, and in a way that was almost fetish-like. And he would stay with certain people that I knew. This was back in the early 90s. And everybody loved Jorge. I mean, he was a great guy, and they loved his music. And it was just part of a kind of a neo-shamanic electronic music scene that I was in at that time. Steve Roach was a part of it, and Robert Rich, and a lot of other people. And Jorge would come to the United States. He would stay at somebody's house to record, or he'd stay at somebody's house to stay and hang out while we put a concert on for him or something like that. And for whatever reason, invariably people would find things in his luggage, and it wasn't like he would get away with it. People would find like a couple of silver spoons from the kitchen, in his luggage. Why would those spoons be in his luggage? It was unusual. And I'm not sure what it was about. I think it had something to do with fetishism and personal powers of object. He never stole anything from me, though. But then he never stayed with me either. So I wrote this piece about May 10th, the eclipse, and there's a lot happening historically in relationship to May 10th. Let me just read off a few of the events that occur on May 10th. In the year 70, Titus attacked Jerusalem on May 10th. It was one of the first major sieges on Jerusalem, and predated the Templar siege on Jerusalem, which would take place roughly 1,100 years later. It's kind of a big deal if you think about it. Vespucci set off from Cadiz in 1497 on May 10th to explore the New World. The British essentially handed America over to the Dutch East India Trading Company, and that was in 1773, and they did that to give the Dutch East India a monopoly on the tea trade coming out of America. And I'll bet if you drill down deep enough, you would find that as a result of that, and the result of that charter, that there is some layer of incorporation between Dutch East India and the City of London and the colonies at that point in time that took place. I don't have the chain of title in front of me, but my senses tell me that that's actually the case and what happened. Also on May 10th, and this is kind of an important piece to file away, in 1837, on May 10th, something called the Great Panic, or the Panic of 1837 occurred. And it was really the first economic collapse and planned economic collapse, or the planned economic demolition that occurred in this country. Now, what happened was that 2 years earlier, in 1835, Andrew Jackson decided not to renew the charter of the First Bank of the United States. And that bank was the first central bank that had been set up here in this country. There had been central banks set up all around the world, but the first one here. And the prime investor in that bank was Baron James de Rothschild of Paris. Nicholas Biddle was the guy who was the figurehead of the bank, but it was the Rothschild family who put the might and the muscle behind the bank itself. And Jackson was well aware of their intention to put a stranglehold on the capital. When I say capital, I mean capital, not TOL, of this country. So he thought that by not renewing that charter, that he had, for all intents and purposes, defeated the forces of fiat tyranny. Well, he wasn't quite out of the woods. There was a backdoor deal that had been done through the Department of the State. And there was a firm called Baring, B-A-R-I-N-G, and they were the ones that did this backdoor deal with the Department of the State, which essentially left open the possibility of having the central banking system be a part of capitalization of the country or the decapitalization of it, even though it wasn't put into effect. But it was there. They created the back door, so to speak. Now, between 1835 and 1837, something tremendous happened. You know what happened? Cash reserves in this country swelled. That's right, there's more money available. The economy expanded, and the government, during that 2-year period, paid off the debt. And they had $50 million in reserve. Think about that. In 2 years, of course, the scale and the layers of the money and the debt and all that stuff are much different than today. In 2 years, they managed to solve a significant financial crisis. But then what happened was on the 10th of May, 1837, the Bank of England threw out all the paper connected with the United States. All of it, gone. And it created a panic. And a massive contraction in credit, and it froze the issuances of stocks and bonds. It was a financial meltdown. It was the first financial meltdown in this country. And eventually, the country recovered, but by that time, the claws of the central banking system were back into the neck of the beast, so to speak. So that happened 176 years ago on Friday. There's another very interesting series of events that have taken place. There's a lot of war-related activities, a lot of Civil War and a lot of World War II related activities for May 10th as well. Numerous. I'm not going to mention all of them, but trust me, there are a lot. So the specter of war is also associated with May 10th. And lastly, something else really strange happened on May 10th. There was a fellow by the name of John Wilkes. And John Wilkes was a writer, he was an intellectual, he was a journalist. He was into politics. This is during the time of King George III, so we're talking the 1760s, 1768 to be exact. And he published a piece in the London newspaper which attacked King George III. And King George III had him arrested and put him into prison as a result of this. And then there were riots in London, which took place. This all happened on May 10th. John Wilkes is the fellow's name. What's really strange is that May 10th is also the birthday of John Wilkes Booth, the guy that shot Abraham Lincoln. Very strange. And these are some of the oddities and the synchronicities of the astro matrix. Let's take a phone call here and let's start doing some readings. Hello there.
Hey.
Hi, who's this?
Hey, this is James.
James, what's happening, man?
Nothing much. Just listening to you.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for listening. How was your big birthday?
My birthday was pretty. It was pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. It was filled with children. Actually, it was filled with children.
Was it filled with children in diapers, or was it just filled with all the good things that we love about children?
It was a mixture of both. A mixture of both. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it was a mixture of both. Children run around with diapers, and children who should be in diapers but don't have diapers, and then older children.
Wow, that sounds like a party, man, a wild party.
Man, they had a good time on my birthday. They had a great time.
You know, I didn't mind changing diapers. It was weird. I mean, you know, it was like a lot of people were like, ooh, you know, diapers. Ooh. I didn't mind it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a Virgo or something. I always felt like, you know, that there was some grand achievement by having a clean butt and a fresh set of undies. You know, it was like, you know, it was like bringing order to the world in a very fundamental way.
That's true. That's a good way of looking at that.
It was also a way for me to affirm that my son gave a shit and I cared. Anyway, so what is happening, man? What brings you to the show today? Are you just listening? Do you want me to like look at your chart and?
Man, I love listening to you. I love. I'm so mad that I missed the first couple of minutes of the show, so I have to go back into the archives and listen to that you just made. But I love listening to you. We've got the solar eclipse tomorrow, so I'm wondering what does that mean for me tomorrow?
Well, I have it. I actually have the solar eclipse happening on. I have it on the 10th. But let's check it out here. Let me look at your chart. There you go. Okay, go in there now. So it's going to be in Taurus, and you're in Aries. You have all that Aries. Let me see if you're still in my Astro Rolodex. May not be. Let me just see. No, I don't think you are. Let me put you back in there. Let's do the dance. Hold on. All right, give me your coordinates.
No, the coordinates. I know the time.
Give me your time. Give me your time and date.
Okay, that's March 30th, 1985.
Okay.
And the
time. 1985. Hold on. Okay, and time?
And the time is 3:38 p.m.
3:38 p.m. All right. And where was that? Was that Florida?
Miami.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's going on with that owner down there, Stephen Ross and the Dolphins, man?
Oh Lord, yeah.
That guy needs a reality check.
Man, I can't even begin to tell you all the stuff that's going on down here. It's craziness. It's real craziness.
For people that don't know what we're talking about, Stephen Ross is a mega real estate mogul from New York, buddies with Larry Silverstein, and he moved down to Miami and he bought the Miami Dolphins from Wayne Huizenga, who used to own Blockbuster and made his fortune collecting trash all across America. And they had just done a bunch of renovations to their stadium down there, Joe Robbie Stadium. And not only that, but they had the Florida Marlins, who literally strong-armed and hijacked the city of Miami to create a brand new state-of-the-art stadium, put the city of Miami in the red. And then the owner of the team promptly traded away half of its players.
Yep.
So now they're playing with minor league players and expecting fans to come and support this team. for a con artist by the name of Jeffrey Loria. He's an art dealer, and he's a con artist. That's what he is. And now Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, wants the city of Miami to do the exact same thing for him with a football stadium.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they've been burned once, and now they're pushing back on him. They're saying no. And he's saying, well, I might not keep the team. I might have to sell the team. And somebody may move the team when I sell the team. He's trying to extort money out of the people of Miami. Yeah. And the guy is worth $5 billion. $5 billion. And he can't afford. This is how the rich work. They never spend their own money. Never. Cheap.
Never.
All right. It's enough of my rant. So there we go. People are up to speed now. All right, my friend. That eclipse is happening in your 9th house. And it's going to be right there, right on your true node. Wow. Very interesting.
Okay.
I
hope that's good.
What are you doing over the next 24 hours?
Nothing much really. I just came back from meditation. Just kind of spending time to myself. That sort of thing.
I would say continue to do that.
Okay.
The thing with eclipses is that the energy of the eclipse gets triggered pre-eclipse, but also, it lasts days after the eclipse. In fact, in my own life, I was born just after an eclipse, like just a day or two after an eclipse. So I've got an interesting affinity with eclipses. The eclipse in your 9th house, theoretically, as it conjuncts your true node, I think it's going to be far enough away. Well, there will be some opposition with that eclipse in your chart to Pluto down in your 3rd. So my sense here is that I view the 9th house as the upper room. Okay, so the upper room is essentially where Jesus went to meet God, right? The upper room is higher consciousness. It's moving away from the house where people dwell and have their everyday affairs, cook food, sleep, poop, all that stuff. So the upper room is a place of meditation, and it's a place of solitude. And with with the true node in your 9th house, that's a natural dwelling place for you, and a place that you need to be, but it's not just philosophical or theoretical or even etheric. I mean, we're dealing with earth energy, we're dealing with Taurus here. So it's about making the ideal real, or making the vision applicable in the material world. So my slightly solicited advice to you would be to do what you did today, to do the meditation piece, and to open yourself up for what I think could be a very unique breakthrough in your work. And what I mean by that is getting clear on something that allows you to connect from the ideal plane to the material plane, that allows you to bring your work deeper into the manifestation of the 3rd dimensional experience, because that's what Taurus is. So it could be anything from, like, maybe you get the call to rent out a vacant laundromat in a strip mall on Sundays and hold your own services or something like that. I mean, I'm throwing it out there that there's something about this eclipse that gets your head thinking about the material world and how to shape and manifest your vision in this plane, in horizontal relationship, and 3D consciousness. That's what it feels like to me. So stay open over the next 24 hours to see what kind of inspiration that the universe, God, will bring you in order to make what you do even more real than it is now. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the challenge is the opposition to Pluto in your third house. And to me, that's a bridge. Pluto in the third house is very, very psychic. It's penetratingly psychic. So when we get into oppositions, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring the duality, the polarity of the opposition together. So it's also when you're dealing with the when you're experiencing the eclipse, you're not just experiencing the eclipse, but you're also experiencing Pluto. Saturn, by the way, is just 4 degrees off of your Pluto right now. So you're having a Saturn-Pluto conjunction as Saturn goes retrograde. Saturn gets within 1 more degree of your Pluto. When Saturn went over your Pluto, was that when your girlfriend got really sick, James?
I think so. I think so.
I think it was too. So when Saturn comes back closer to your Pluto at 5 degrees, your girlfriend will not get sick again, but there will be a revisiting of that for you at some level, and the impact that it's had on your life and had on your way of thinking, and how you can, for lack of a better term, interpenetrate different worlds. Because Pluto in the third house, man, that's super intense. The job for you is to bring it up into the 9th. And that's what I think the eclipse is going to do. The eclipse is going to say, okay, because the third house is, both the third and the 9th are slightly theoretical, but in different ways. The third house is all about the gathering of information. And then the 9th house is about the proselytizing of the gathering of the information, because that's Sagittarius. So what you want to do, though, because your 9th house is Earth and it's solid, you want to bring that Pluto up there. You want to bring the depth, the penetrating mind up there, and dwelling with your true node and with your Mars, if you can, to the best of your ability, because that completes everything. That completes this very potent triad. So do your best, stay open, stay grounded, because you will. I mean, that's part of your nature with the true node in Taurus. But be ready to receive something, I think, really interesting that will give you clarity and direction about where to take, for lack of a better term, your ministry in the next direction on this plane of existence.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you. That's incredible.
Well, you're welcome. And let us know how it goes, all right?
I sure will. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, James. You take good care of yourself. I know you will, too.
Thank you so much. You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right.
That's our friend James calling us from Miami, Florida. Let's go to the 607 line, and let's see who they are and what they want to talk about. Hello there.
Hello, is this the Free Association Radio World Headquarters?
It is. This is my friend Roy.
Yes, how did you know?
Because I know you, man. I know your signature. I know your voice.
Oh, really?
What's your voice print? What's going on, brother?
Oh, wow. What's going on? You know, you touched on everything that I rarely get a chance to listen to you live. And I was cooking lunch for my wife and my father, and I said, oh, let me check it out. And you were just coming on, and then you read that article by Stuart Wilde, and then you spoke about Saturn and retrograde. And the reason why I wanted to listen to you live and hopefully call in was because I've been having some really whacked out dreams lately. And you explained it, you know, right off the bat when I turned on your broadcast with the Saturn in retrograde. But I'm calling anyway to see what's going on. I mean, these dreams are pretty hairy.
Well,
and hopefully there's something in the stars that can shed some light on it.
Well, let's set the stage for people to give them a better understanding of who you are. This is my friend Roy, who lives in New York, and I've been in contact with Roy and his dear wife, Rosemary, for maybe about 2 years now, getting close to 2 years, and they've been really strong supporters of the show. And Roy also happens to be a very well-known painter and has a great visual context that he brings to the world. So when he dreams, I have no doubt, Roy, that you're tapping into some very powerful stuff, because if visual acuity and your visionary spirit. So do you want to talk about any of these dreams, or how do you want to run with this?
Okay, first of all, I wanted to say something about the article that you read from Stuart Wilde. I hadn't done any art in literally years, because why? To me it was like, why? I'm not out there, and I have enough stuff in storage. I don't need another thing on the wall, Yeah. But I've been doing computer work, and it's a lot easier. I can shut off the computer. I don't have to clean the brushes. I don't need a studio, and I've been working on these computer pieces. And you described something what Stuart Wilde had saw in his vision, or in that article that you read, that I just did. I just completed one work, and I'm going to send it out to get it printed, and I'm really happy about it, because I haven't done anything in a long time, and it's really sparking some creativity in me now. And it was, you said something about Judah, the Lion of Judah.
Yeah.
And I just did a painting, a computer-generated work called The Angel of Judah.
Uh-huh.
And, what you described in his article, which I have to go read now, I've been following Stuart Wilde off and on. Every couple of weeks I'll read something from him or whatnot, maybe listen to something on YouTube, but I haven't been like a real I've been following you a lot more, put it that way. So the dream part of it, so that was just something on the side, because that was really interesting when you that was another one of those synchronicities. But
right.
The dream part of it, very, very, very dark, very dark. And the last one, which was a day and a half ago, wow, I don't know, it was very dark. And what you had said earlier about with Saturn in retrograde and being the underworld, and each one of these dreams had something to do with the underworld, with going down, with a hole in the ground, or being in a room underground, or being pulled underground,
Right.
And pretty gory. I mean, a lot of these, horror movie type visuals were in that, and for the most part, to me, it was just like watching. But the last one was more real. It was really strong, and that's why I called, because I thought maybe you can shed some light on it. Something to do with this, or maybe it's something I'm avoiding in my life,
Let's fire up your chart here. Hold on a sec. Let me find. Let's go. I can only have so many of these, so I'm gonna have to put you back in here. Hold on a second. I think I have you actually. Now, there you are. You're in the system. Let's just.
I'm in this.
11 a.m. 29 August.
Yes.
Yeah, there you are. Okay. So Saturn right now is conjunct your Neptune. It's about 3 degrees off your Neptune. You've got that Neptune at 11 degrees Scorpio in the first house. And Neptune and Scorpio in the first house is part of that really potent grand trine, that grand water trine that you have with Mars and Chiron and Jupiter. And I think part of what's happening is once Saturn crossed your Neptune, and that would have been about a month ago, it would have triggered a process for you, and it would have lit up that grand trine, that grand water trine. And so it reignited your imagination. And Scorpio in the first house is very intense. And people that have Scorpio on the ascendant, they don't live life in shades of gray. It's very, very potent, very powerful, very, very black and white at times for people with Scorpio on the ascendant. And when you have Neptune there on the ascendant, not on the ascendant, but in the first house, it is really a very powerful symbol and aspect for dreaming. And there's an interesting film. It's called The Lathe of Heaven. It's actually based on a book by Doris Lessing, I believe. And it's about a young man who has the power to dream, and his dreams become manifest in the world. It's kind of an early version of the Matrix. And Neptune in the first house in Scorpio is in some ways slightly reminiscent of that. And it has the power to create the dream world externally. And this could be through painting or through what you're doing with your computer or even invoking situations, elements, and people that show up as almost like partners in a dream play or characters in a dream play. It's a very powerful place for Neptune to be. And I know a little bit about your history. And once you were able to get through and transcend the darkness of your personal history, Neptune became a real ally for you. It became a dream ally. And when Saturn crossed over your Neptune, this would have been about a month ago, it would have started that process again in some ways. And it's going to come back over your Neptune again by the end of the summer. In fact, it'll be there, I believe, in late August, early September. And it'll be the final pass over Neptune. And it feels to me like you're being kind of reinitiated in some ways with the horror and the nightmare that caused you at a certain point in your life to take different turns. And I don't want to say that it's a test, because I don't think it's a test at all. I think it's more along the lines of, okay, we think you're capable of handling this now. We think that you're strong enough and visionary enough, and the angles are lining up enough on the charts so that you can actually do something with this. And I do think that people like you, Roy, and other people who are very powerful dreamers or visionaries or artists, that we tap into reality in ways that we don't really know or understand, so that when we have a cathartic experience or we create something, or we're able to shift something in our psyches and our consciousness, it does have an impact on the dominant paradigm. We can change the flow of things in some way, but we're not. It gets back to what Stuart Weil was talking about in that piece. He doesn't really understand it, but he knows that we are being moved by this, by the grace of this light and the intelligence of this light, and that if we are humble and clear, and we've worked on our shadow, then what happens is we become a transducer for that experience. And I think that that's what's going on with you. And the nightmares, and they sound like nightmares and not dreams, are in some ways for you to process it both on a personal and a collective level. So in terms of the eclipse, it's going to be taking place in your seventh house, and it's going to be opposing Neptune in your chart. And that's going to be very powerful for you. And it's going to be powerful in the sense that it will hopefully reaffirm the purpose of your relationship and your bond and your grounding with Rosemary, because it's taking place in your seventh house. You can have refuge, or you might be able to take refuge in the seventh house when the energy of the eclipse occurs. So what I would do is, try to figure out ways in which you can stay in close contact with Rosemary and during that time, whether through meditation or being in the garden or, working with the animals or whatever it is you guys do that gives you physical contact as well, because Taurus is quite physical. So, and there's a stellium of Taurus happening right now in your seventh house as well. So I think that the eclipse can be extremely powerful, especially as it reaffirms the grounding and the bond that you share with Rosemary, and the ability to understand that in a way that anchors your facility to work with the nightmare, both in this reality and in multiple realities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a lot of sense. Yeah.
And Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the last piece is when Saturn moves back across Neptune one more time, and this again is in late August, early September, going into October. The last time it crosses Neptune, it will be a moment where your spiritual vision will be reified, and your artistic and creative vision will be catalyzed. So I think that this is actually a very powerful time for you, and especially as we get into the shift from Jupiter in Gemini to it moving up into your ninth house and conjuncting Mars in your chart and trining Jupiter. Jupiter's going to be dancing back and forth a little bit between Jupiter and Chiron in your chart. I think that's a really, really powerful time. Jupiter's going to be sextiling Pluto in your chart, so things are really going to take off for you in June and July. Are you and Rosemary thinking of traveling at all this summer or fall?
No, not at all. No.
So when Jupiter moves into the ninth house, there's a call to travel, and so it may not be on your schedule now, but that's not to say that it won't be in the next 5 to 6 months based on its own accord. All right, feedback. Anything you want to share?
Hello?
Yep.
What's that? Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Is there any feedback or anything you want to share or add?
Yeah, when you were touching that with the artwork, which is very interesting. It's on a computer screen, but so it's pretty much right in your face. But I noticed certain things coming through on this that I didn't put in there, and I'm going to send you a JPEG of it, and you can take a look at it yourself and tell me what you think. But I walked across the room and I said, "Whoa, I didn't put that in there," So it's very strange. Something is being pulled out of there too with the artwork, and that really sparked my my interest in it continuing. And I'm going to keep going at it. And what else? There was something else I wanted to say. But I lost it now. But I think that was great. Everything that you just said is just fantastic.
Well, that's really interesting. That's totally interesting that there was like this Deus Ex Machina, this ghost in your machine. That's a trip, man.
Yeah, it happened in works that I've done in the past, but it was few and far between, and all those things always sold really quick. But now every single one of them, I walk by and Rosemary is like, "Oh, I see this in that, something I don't see," and she sees it. So for a computer art, I haven't seen anything like it. It's probably not that unbelievably unique, but it is thought-provoking, and there is something in there that someone else is putting in there. Put it that way.
All right. Well, send it along. Let me check it out, and maybe we could use it for the graphic for the show on Friday or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. So if you're into it.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
All right.
My cat heard your dog in your line there and just freaked out and ran out the room.
I wish that. Well, I don't wish it was my dog. It's not my dog. It's an annoying little dog that lives across from the world headquarters of Free Association Radio. But
yeah, the other day when we were listening to your show, he freaked out about that dog too. I don't think he likes that dog too much.
I don't think the neighbors like that dog too much either. So your cat is on point. All right, Roy. Well, listen, I'm gonna let you go, and looking forward to seeing that piece. Okay.
Thank you so much for everything.
Thanks.
All right. You take care.
So long.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Rosemary saying goodbye. All right. It's the amazing Roy. All right, let's go to 319, find out who they are, what they're about, and where we want to steer the intergalactic starcraft today. Hello there.
I'm unmuted. Hi, Robert. This is Valiana.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good. I'm excited because I hardly ever get to hear you live, and I'm calling in. So love your show. Just usually catch you on the archives.
Oh, well, thank you for being here live. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Iowa City, Iowa right now.
Okay. Isn't that where the Transcendental Meditation people are?
Yeah, it's about 60 miles south from here.
It's funny, I just posted this photo on Facebook with David Lynch, Barry Zito, and Russell Brand all doing TM at a public school in San Francisco. They're all sitting together with their eyes closed. It's a pretty trippy photo.
Russell Brand is an interesting cat, in my opinion.
He is. I'm trying to get him on the show, by the way.
Oh.
I have a connection with Russell Brand through somebody who's actually been on the show. So I'm working on that. We'll see where that
That'd be
goes.
cool.
That'd be very cool. I think it could be a pretty interesting interview, actually.
Excellent.
All right, let's find out about you. Enough about Russell Brand.
Okay, I am trying to self-teach myself astrology, and I seem to be drawn to you the most. So I was hoping you could just give me a little bit of help in reading a couple of aspects of my chart.
Okay. When's your birthday?
April 22nd, 1967.
Okay. 1967. Okay. And what time?
5:46 a.m.
And where?
Waterloo, Iowa.
All right. Let's do this. Okay, here we go. Okay. There you are. I have you Aries, ascendant, and that's at 16 degrees. Is that right?
Aries ascendant. That'd be like Aries rising? I thought
Yeah.
it was a Taurus rising.
I have you at Aries. You said 5:46 a.m.?
Yeah.
22nd April 1967, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just do this. Let me go into my secondary software here just to make sure. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is why when I fire a chart up, I always ask people to try to get confirmation, especially people that have some idea about what their chart is about. Okay, where am I? Hold on. All right, let's try this again. I'm opening up time passages, which is my personal program. I like reading the charts on Astrological better because they're clearer. But I know if there's any kind of discrepancy, that time passages will iron it out like lickety split. All right, so let's do this. Let's try it again. Let's do new. Let's see. All right. There we go. Okay, so we got City Waterloo.
Yes.
That's in Iowa. Go, and we're looking up the coordinates. Bang, there's that. And the date of birth is 22nd of April, 4/22. And that is the year being 1967, right?
Correct.
Okay. There with that, we're good with that. And 5:46 a.m. And we got that, bang, and let's change that to a.m. And there we go. And in this chart, okay, for whatever reason now, we have time correction, and I have you as a Taurus rising. There we go.
Cool. Me too.
Yeah, so Taurus rising, and you've got a gang of planets in your 12th house.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. The good news is about that is that your true node is within a 4-degree orb of your ascendant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually, and it's in Taurus, which if you're going to have, I think, planets in the 12th house, I actually think having a planet like Taurus or a sign like Taurus in the 12th house is actually not bad, because of the fixed nature. It forces you to go to the 12th house and really understand the 12th house and understand your identity at a much deeper level. And when you do come to some kind of understanding, or for lack of a better term, gnosis around that, you get it. It sticks, because Taurus is a fixed sign. So when you peel off, when you explore, when you go deep, it stays with you. And you have, at that point, how I see your 12th house is like a relay race. From Chiron to Saturn to Mercury to the Sun to the true node, everything is being passed along by a baton. And within 4-degree orb, we read your true node as being conjunct your ascendant. So all of the progression and the procession of those planets and signs are all led towards your return to the 12th house over and over again, exploring it, going into the depths of it, and then bringing it out and bringing it to the rest of the world to see, and to make something concrete of that experience, because Taurus is a fixed sign, it's an earth sign, it's a concrete sign. So anything that you can do that allows you to bring that intensity and the focus of the 12th into the world via something artistic, creative, material, symbolic. It can also be speaking. It could be singing. Taurus rules the throat, So anything that you can do along those lines will help you understand who you are a whole lot more. And not only that, but it's kind of like dreams. Roy and I were talking about dreams. And if people keep a dream journal, what happens is that the more dedicated you are to the dream journal, the more dedicated the dream becomes to you. Meaning that the process begins to become much richer and expand, and the next thing you know, you're living with a very vivid dream life. The same thing can be said about the 12th house and the planets and your experience in the 12th house. The more that you make them more concrete, more realized, and more manifest through something material, the more the 12th house then cooperates with you, the more that it's able to essentially bring to the surface for you as well. Now, Saturn, and I know I haven't answered your questions yet, but Saturn in the 12th house is very powerful. People that have Saturn in the 12th house never really feel like they're a part of this world.
I can affirm that.
Yeah, and part of the challenge with Saturn in the 12th house is loneliness. And people, and feeling alone, like nobody understands you, you don't understand this place, And the challenge with that Saturn is it's almost like you have to take time out. You have to be away from the world in order to contact the voice of God. I mean, that's really what that's about. And then when you and when you hear it, when you get it, you can come back into the world and make sense of everything. So, all right, let's get into your questions. See if I can.
Okay, my first question is, I am due for a Jupiter return this summer. And can you explain a little bit about what that means?
Jupiter returns are obviously they're not as quote unquote profound as a Saturn return, and the only reason why is because they move very quickly, and you only get the juice of a Jupiter return for really about 14 or 15 days. On either side of Jupiter, and also in the conjunction. So it would be like 8 degrees before, and then the exact conjunction about 8 degrees after. That's really the sweet spot of the Jupiter return. And the Saturn return, the reason why Saturn returns are so intense is because Saturn goes back and forth a lot, and it actually stays in its sign longer than Jupiter. And of course, Saturn means something completely different in and of itself. The key with the Jupiter return is that you have to grab the moment. It's kind of like the metaphor that I've used before with the Jupiter return is, let's say you're out on a boat and you're sailing, right? And you're going pretty well, and you're kind of tacking back and forth, and then all of a sudden the direction of the wind changes, and the wind is at the back of your sails, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Then what do? You put your sails wing on wing, and you try and go as far as you can for as long as that wind is at the back of your sails. That's kind of like the Jupiter return. It's a short burst of for lack of a better term, positivity and beneficence and expansion. And for you, it's in the fourth house. And so anything that you could do that's related to your house or where you live during the Jupiter return would be highly beneficial. That could be anything from, sometimes people could move and sell their homes with a Jupiter return in the fourth house, and you would get a lot more for your place than you thought you would. Another aspect of the Jupiter return in the fourth house would be maybe putting on an addition to where you live, adding a room on or doing something to your home to increase the value of the home, to expand the home in some way. Another manifestation of the Jupiter return in the fourth house is maybe you want to buy land somewhere. Maybe that would be a way for you to expand the whole notion of home. Maybe it's not where you live, but where you might potentially live. That's another possibility. You have it at 0 degrees, which is a really powerful aspect of Cancer. It's the most powerful aspect of Cancer. You do have it at 0 degrees, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have it at 0 degrees. It's the most powerful aspect of Cancer. And so, no, I take that back. You don't have it at 0 degrees. I take that back.
26, I think, isn't it?
It's 26 degrees.
26.00.
Yeah, you're at your 26.0. You're at the end of Cancer. But it's not the 29th degree, which would be the most challenging part. So I would say that that for you, the Jupiter return also can represent the ripening of relationships with maternal figures in your life. So if your mom is still alive, it would be a really good time to connect with her, but also in your own life, any sort of role that you're playing maternally, you're also rewarded for as well. So Jupiter and Cancer in the fourth house is tremendous. It's a really phenomenal aspect, and actually I think helps you out with that Saturn over there in the 12th house as well a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, yeah, go ahead.
So that's, I mean, if that were me and I was having a Jupiter return, I would look to expand my definition of what home is. That's what I would do.
That's amazing. Well, my husband and I actually live a life that's similar to what Freeman did. We sold everything, and we've been gypsies for the last 4 years. Now, we don't stay on people's couches. We do, like, rent homes, but we've been all over North and Central America. So I just, interesting. Now we want to live on a boat. And so you mentioned the boat aspect to float around, and so very interesting.
That would be cool. Having a boat would be in a Jupiter, the Cancer fourth house. That would be a cool thing to do.
And my husband's sun sign's Cancer too, so we make a really good water earth. We have to walk that fine line of balance, as every couple does. But
So is your husband a fix-it guy? Does he fix things?
Yes, absolutely. He's excellent at it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So I'd look into it. That sounds like a really interesting idea.
Cool. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really appreciate everything that you do and who you are, and you're an incredible person, so keep on keeping on.
Oh, I appreciate that, and it always blows me away because the people that call into the show seem to be, a pretty interesting reflection. If you're calling in, and I really like you, and I like your energy, and I'm getting feedback from you and from Laura and and James and all these other people, I must be doing something right. So thanks.
You are doing something right.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Go, keep going. You're like a rose that's about to bloom. So it's great to watch you. Glad to have the contact. Thanks so much.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, there we go. Let's see. 604. Where's the 604 period code? Did we already do 604 today? I'm talking to myself. Is that a good thing? I'm not so sure. I used to talk to myself a lot as a kid. So 604 is British Columbia. Let's bring him on. Hello there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Good. Yeah, thank you for answering my phone call.
Sure.
Listen to your show sometimes.
What's your name?
My name is Leo.
Hey, Leo.
Hey, I was just curious as far as like forecast for me for the financial aspect of the business.
Okay.
What's out there for me in the astrology chart?
Okay. Since I have my my time passages program open, let's just stay there. It seems like it's being obedient today. Let's go there. Okay, so Leo, why don't you go ahead and give me your birthday?
Yes, October 27th, 1967. And born 1205.
October 27th. In 1967 was now. And it was 12:25. Is that what you said?
No, actually 1205.
12:05. I'm assuming that's 12 noon.
No, it's been midnight, like 5 after 12.
Right. Okay, we got that. And where was that?
I was actually born in Ukraine, in Kiev.
Kiev. Okay.
But moved here when I was like 12 years old, so pretty much to Vancouver, Canada.
We have a fellow Ukrainian in the chat room, by the way.
Yeah. Funny enough, like, I won about 8 times in lottery, so I'm very successful in the numbers.
Oh, you are?
But I don't know how I get the numbers. Well, I do know, like, I have little systems and stuff, but I wonder if it's in my chart, something to do with,
So you say you've been successful in the lottery?
Oh, say it again?
You say you've been successful in the lottery?
Yeah, I've been successful in the lottery, on more than 8 times in the last 5 years.
So let's get into this. This is fascinating. So you pick the numbers, like, instead of doing random stuff, or?
Yeah, no, I pick the numbers.
Okay.
I think I'm actually writing a book, which should be finished pretty much in a month, How to Win.
When you finish the book, come find me. I'll have you on the show and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
In terms of luck, you have Jupiter in the second house, and you have it in the sign of Virgo, and it's at 1 degree. So if we look at Virgo, what Virgo is, it's a very analytical sign, right? Virgo, if you are picking numbers for the lottery, then probably what you're doing is you're probably looking at patterns. I mean, that's my sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's one of the systems. Yeah.
Yeah. So Virgo at a very early degree would be able to ascertain through analysis what those patterns are, whether numbers are showing up or not showing up, because that'd be part of the pattern. I mean, I'm just again going in my head about this.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have the intellectual capacity and the acuity to figure it out, right? That's Virgo. And Jupiter expands. Now, I believe Jupiter is in its fall in Virgo. So it's a funny place for Virgo, but it still expands Virgo nonetheless. Jupiter in the second house is, astrologically speaking, is classically considered a planet of luck and fortune and abundance when it shows up in the second house, because the second house is material goods. It's Taurus. It's money is what it is. So you have people that have Jupiter in the second house tend to either be wealthy or have lots of material goods, and I've seen this in charts quite frequently. And when you put Virgo into Jupiter, especially at 1 degree, essentially what you're doing is you're using your intellect and you're using your perception in order to be lucky or to at least achieve what some people would perceive as luck. Okay, so I could definitely see Jupiter playing a pretty significant role in this. Jupiter also sextiles a bunch of your planets in Scorpio. So you have your Sun in Scorpio at 2 degrees. You have Mercury in Scorpio at 15 degrees. It's a very wide sextile. But the Sun and Jupiter sextile is, again, very fortuitous. And what is Scorpio? Scorpio is it's psychic perception, it's psychic phenomena. It's being able to understand things at an imperceptible level. So now you're bringing the Sun and Jupiter together, materiality, Virgo, analysis, and the part that is not analytical is probably the intuitive part, or what I would call the point of departure, where you leap from the pattern or where you leap from the perception into some other place. And that's
sorry, David, which is exactly 2 times when I won the lottery. 2 times I told myself I'm going to win it today.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about millions. We're talking about good amounts. But which I found, is there something I don't know? Is there something more further out there? You know, maybe that's what you're saying. Maybe we are all tapping into something.
Well, there's a book by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Blink. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
No.
It's a really interesting book. Malcolm Gladwell is a really bright guy. He does a lot of, he writes a lot for the New York Times, and he wrote a book called The Tipping Point, and where he gets into sort of how cultures and trends appear and then take form and shift. And it was a very popular book. And then he wrote Blink, and Blink is about intuition. And what he was able to determine with Blink is that intuition does exist, but it exists in ways that we're not necessarily completely aware of. And he was able to, via a number of cases, he was able to find that intuition is really the most refined and distilled essence of people that have lots of information at their disposal, and that they were masters at managing that information and making light-speed decisions based on cramming and mashing all that information together, so that when they made a decision, it looks as though it's pure intuition, but that intuition is really the leaping off point or the point of departure for all their accrued experience, information, and instinct all in one. And I think that might be kind of similar to, you know, those spaces that you get to. But Scorpio plays a really big role in understanding this at a psychic or an intuitive level and marrying it with the rational in the pattern level, which is Virgo. The other thing that I see in your chart, which is interesting, is you have the part of fortune. And the part of fortune is up in your 10th house, and it is in the sign of Taurus. So Taurus, again, represents money, represents material goods, represents gold, silver, coins, all these things. So you're part of fortune. What you're good at or what you're lucky at is up there in the 10th house. So if you want to, you can share this with people, which will increase your part of fortune, right? So
yes.
The other thing, too, is that your true node, and this is fascinating, I think, Your true node is in Aries, and it's right on the midheaven. And Aries represents will, right? That's what it represents. It represents will. And so when you had that moment where you said, today I will win the lottery 2 times, to me, that is clearly an Aries true node on the midheaven moment. So part of this also is a way for you to experience your own will and making things happen, and then hopefully being able to share that with other people. I think this is really exciting. I can certainly see it in your chart.
Wow, thank you very much. And what would be my sign is Scorpio. It's not like my descent sign is Leo, or I go by my sign. I'm not very familiar with astrology. That's why I'm asking.
Ascendant is Leo. Your moon is Leo, and your ascendant is Leo.
Okay, so I go by Leo. And finally, my real name is Leo.
I know. That is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, definitely when it comes out, I'll definitely contact you.
You know, you can contact me, Robert Phoenix at robertphoenix.com. Real easy. Let me know when it comes out. We'll get you on the show. We'll talk about it, and I think we'll have a really good discussion. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leo. See you later.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, that's pretty interesting, huh? Cool stuff. You know, I played the lottery. I bought a ticket on Monday. Here it is, right here. I got the numbers right in my hand. 37, 13, 34, 49, and Powerball 29. Estimated value, $144 million. Let me read those numbers again. 3, 7, 13, 34, 49, 29. I understand what Leo's talking about, because there was a time in my life where I was actually playing the lottery quite a bit. I was living in Washington State, and it was a good state to play the lottery in because there weren't as many people in California. And what I was doing is I was following the lottery every week, and I was noticing sequences and patterns of numbers. And you have to look at the sample size going back 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And then what I was finding was that I could find literally kind of a chunk of potentiality based on that sequence, and then you would pick numbers within sort of that chunk of potentiality, and hopefully you get the right numbers, right? So let's say, for instance, to give you an example, if it had been 4 or 5 weeks before a sequence of numbers in the 30s had occurred, then you would play the 30s, right? Something along those lines. But the sequences have happened not only horizontally but vertically as well. And the only time I was ever really able to make it work was I was in, I believe it was St. Helena, and I just got into an accident in my car, and I pulled over to a Mexican restaurant. I had some Mexican food and tequila. I was bummed out, and I was playing Keno, State of California Keno, and I was using my system, my pattern system, and I think I won like $75 that day. So it does work. Okay, I think that's it. The customer service queue has been cleared out, and it's a good show today. I didn't know what to expect. I had a challenging moment on Facebook today. I'm not sure what to think of it, but it's over. All right, so let's do this. Let's all meet again on Friday, shall we? Let's do this again on Friday. I'm going to have, I believe, Philip Proffer on, and we're going to talk about his invention and how it purifies water and what it means to you. And I've got some interesting news on some guests, upcoming guests. James Gillian at the ESETI Institute has agreed to be on the show. We're going to have him on, hopefully in the not-so-distant future. And we'll talk ETs and disclosure and UFOs and all that stuff. I've always liked what he's done. He's an interesting guy. He's somebody I actually trust in that world. Somebody else has called in here. Let's see who they are, what they want to talk about. Hello there.
Yeah, hi, it's Ann from Connecticut. And I'm another one who doesn't usually get to hear you live, but I'm on vacation, but it's like the unvacation. It's like either any place I try to go to, something spoils it, or I just don't have the energy to do it. The rest of the stuff, I'm doing like big cleanup around here.
Well, that's
so. And now it's pouring rain, so I don't know. We'll see.
So how long?
But until Monday. I'm off till Monday. But I had to do like yard work and stuff like that, So maybe that's the part that's depressing. I'm just not that kind of person, So.
Well, you're an Aquarius, right?
Right, and my rising is Libra, and I have the Mars in Scorpio at 8 degrees.
Yeah, you should be living in a high-rise apartment in Manhattan or something like that.
Well, I've lived in apartment houses in parts of New York, but this is where I am right now. Actually, I did it for tax purposes at the time, so that's probably my payback for it,
Maybe you should go. Maybe you should go to an Indian casino. Maybe you should go to Foxwoods.
Well, actually, what I did was I'm branching out. Now I'm doing meetings at a flea market here, and I'm meeting all sorts of interesting people there. And
at flea markets?
Yeah, and they want me. They're involved in paranormal investigations. Have been for years, but I tend to want to back off from that myself because I'm also an empath, So I don't know whether I want to get involved with that part of it. But the reading is new to me to do it in that kind of venue,
What kind of readings are you doing?
Tarot.
And do you get people that come up to you and are into it? Do you get the God squatters and say you're going to go to hell? What's your experience like?
No. It's just actually it's a venue where people do not have much money. So we started out that the price is extremely low, but now they're telling me I do so much for people. We really better raise my price, And I had one person contact me to do a private reading, so I met her at a Barnes and Noble, and they didn't bother us at all. We just sat at one of their tables and did the whole thing, inside. So it's always been something that I wanted to figure out how to get into, and I knew someone else who did it at a flea market in a different state. So something pulled me back on April 21st to go to this local flea market, and then I talked to the guy about how much a table would be. He told me, and he was extremely excited that I was going to do this. But I've done most of this while I'm not working. I'm not doing it at night. Other people were encouraging me to get involved with one of the networks. I have at least 2 people that want me to be on their network, but that's more of a taxable situation, So I'll have to see about that. But now I got to go back to work. So, and I'm still cleaning up. I'll be cleaning up this house for a couple of years. Just not my thing. But I want to know, what's the release point you think for me for this eclipse?
So you're Libra rising.
Right. Moon in Cancer.
So you have Taurus on your 8th house cusp.
Taurus is my 8th, yes. And I think my part of fortune is there, as you said to the last person.
So the eclipse is going to be happening in your 8th house.
I know, in opposition to my Mars. Another reason to lay low, right?
Yeah. I would definitely lay low during that time.
My North Node is Pisces. Oh, it's about 0 or 1 degrees Pisces. My Jupiter is Aries at 11.
It might be a good time to have a seance and contact your ancestors or something.
Which is funny. I know someone I know a lot of people. I know someone who's a psychic medium who also does comedy, and they're appearing tonight at a Funny Bones here. So I thought of going to that, but this rain is going to be outrageous, and it's quite a ride for me to get there, so I'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting venue for a medium, but that's what they do, she and the other person.
Yeah.
A comedy club. I don't know. It's sort of sardonic, I guess.
I mean, it could be interesting and funny. I mean, does she do the medium stuff while she's doing comedy?
I think personally, I think she's a frustrated comedian myself. She's been on Blog Talk and she has her own place, her own center, where she does readings, she does classes. I'm sort of beyond what she does, though, so I haven't gone back. The other thing I found interesting is I keep meeting people born in the year 1976. I have no idea why. It's just a lot of people I did readings for, a lot of people I've met were all born in 1976.
Well, that would make them dragons. Aren't you a monkey or something?
Oh, no, I'm a dragon. I didn't think about that part of it.
Oh, yeah. So you're meeting fellow dragons then.
And a lot of Tauruses, which is not always, well, female Tauruses I'm okay with, but males I tend to have problems.
I don't know a lot of Taurus males. I know. There's a couple of kids on my son's baseball team who are Taurus males. They're young. I don't think you'd have a problem with them. They're only 10 years old.
So you're saying good time to have a seance, huh?
Yeah, I'm saying that, slightly tongue-in-cheekish, but I think it would be interesting, because the 8th house is the house of legacy. It's the house of inheritance. So you would be participating in, what your psychic inheritance is or what your psychic legacy is. Because the interesting thing about an eclipse, I mean, it's a solar eclipse, right? But the reason it's a solar eclipse is because the moon moves between the sun and the earth. And so the moon plays a huge role in the solar eclipse. So the moon is the dominant energy. The moon and the feminine and all those millions of people that are apparently living up on the moon become much more prevalent. You have a friend of mine, Dave, down here. He and I were talking the other day about John Lear. Do you know who John Lear is?
No.
John Lear came to prominence mostly thanks to Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper got a lot of his information from John Lear. John Lear, according to John Lear, worked at Area 51. He's got, apparently he has like time travel devices and all this crazy shit. Anyway, he's got information and photos of these cities, according to him, on the moon that have literally millions of people. Like it is like a totally built out.
Wow.
And most of the people on the moon are not human, according to Lear.
Oh, they're robots.
No, I don't think they're robots. I think they're aliens.
Oh. Well, we're aliens to them, remember that?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So maybe what's going to happen during this eclipse is somehow we'll come in contact with the colonies, the moon colonies, the civilization that lives on the moon. Maybe you'll contact them through your seance.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, anything else, Ann, dear, before I send you back into your world?
Well, I just feel like no energy, no, like inertia, like no, not even a block. It's just like I'll think about doing something and then come up with a million reasons not to do it, to just stay in place.
Well, it's kind of.
And I'm not a person to stay at home at all. It's like the opposite.
It's kind of the energy of the time. I mean, do you know anybody really right now that's gung ho and expansive and ready to conquer the next city over hill and dale? I mean, I don't see a lot of people like that. That's not what's happening on the planet. People are pulling their resources inward.
You know what it is? I'm usually at work, and that's kind of like a bubble. Everybody there is in a bubble. It's a place that you can escape. You just do there and endure it, in an office, and you listen to other people's problems most of the time. And then when you're actually in your own skin doing what you think you want to do, I think you start to feel. And so maybe I'm starting to feel when I'm not at work, but then I'm going back to it. So.
Well, I guess you'll go back slightly more enlightened after you have your seance with the full moon.
Good luck. Thank you.
All right, Ann. Well, listen, you take care and catch up with us again. And
I will.
Let us know how your tarot reading career unfolds.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Here she is, the lovely Ann from Connecticut. And with that, we have reached the end of the show. And I thank everyone for calling in and being a part of it. Can't do it without you, or else I'd just be sitting here talking to myself, which might be interesting and entertaining for me, but could also land me in a place where other people talk to themselves, which wouldn't be so fun and entertaining, at least after the initial surreal chuckle would wear off. Okay, so you know what to do. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart's open what's possible. This is Robert Phoenix. I'll be back on Friday with Philip Proper, and we're going to get into water and the purification of it. Here's Philip K. Dick. See you all on Friday.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.